Welcome to another episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast. Today we have Dr. Mitch Harlan coming in from the Front Range, and we're coming from the Western Slope. And if you guys didn't know that, that's the beautiful state of Colorado. And here's a really cool thing is we are the Sunshine State because we have more sunshine days than any other state in the United States. So there's a cool piece of information that people didn't know. But Dr. Mitch Harlan, welcome to our show. We're so happy to have you today.
Hey, I'm happy to be on here with you, Jim. Is that like a Snapple thing where you pop the top and you look underneath there? And I actually knew that, though.
That's why I moved here, because I thrive in the sunshine.
It is. No, that's a great thing, man. That's true. You know, well, we have like 2 feet of snow and then 2 days later it's gone.
Don't tell everybody that.
No, good point. Yeah, it's true. Never mind. It sucks out here.
But what city are you coming in from today?
From Erie, Colorado. We're actually in studio. So myself, producer Chad, we've been filming today, and this is a perfect segue to come on your show because we're already in here. We've got all of our stuff. So yeah, it made it kind of nice.
Yeah, and you're doing something really cool called Truth Talks. Let's talk a little bit about that, and then I'll ask you more stuff about yourself.
All right. Yeah, Truth Talks is this was kind of something that we had planned on doing for a long time, and it started to finally come to fruition. And basically what Truth Talks is real life, real stories of people who have persevered or went through something, that is, to some, is insurmountable, right? And what we do is we bring these stories on our show so that other people who might be going through something similar have a way out. It's another option. Which obviously we're going to be talking about chiropractic. This is where all of this was kind of founded about 27 years ago.
Yeah. And how long have you been doing Truth Talks now?
We're on season 2. So we're about a full year in, I do believe. And cool. It was, this is all part of a great big conglomeration that we've been planning for quite some time. Like, apparently I'm one of those 20 some odd year overnight successes, but I like to move slow, precise, but then we get it done. So we kicked it into high gear, and we love this stuff, man.
Awesome. Well, maybe you could lead in with us and share with our audience, what is your chiropractic story and what originally influenced you to become a chiropractor?
You know, my story actually, it started a little bit before 1986, but, obviously I was an athlete and well, maybe not obviously. I guess that's kind of arrogant, maybe, huh? I don't know. But I was an athlete in high school. And so, I would have I would have periodic injuries. And there was a guy by the name of Dr. Bill Miller who was he was a chiropractor in this little bitty town called Keatsville. But there would be a lot of athletes from my hometown, Salisbury and Moberly and everywhere else that would go see this guy. And my experience was just, I would get banged up, he'd treat me, and everything was good. And then in 1986, I was in a pretty bad car accident and got busted up pretty good. And I had migraine headaches that I couldn't shake. And I was on anything and everything they would give me. And Dr. Miller, ended up knowing my orthopedic surgeon who put me back together, and basically said, hey, you know what, my buddy, I'm going to have him come in here. And he didn't have any hospital privileges, anything. And he brought him in and started treating me and got me over migraines, which literally, I busted my femur, had intermedullary rods, the whole 9 yards. And the migraines were the worst. I would have busted my legs over and over again to not have those migraines. And Dr. Miller come in, like an everyday, no big deal, just lay there and whack, and here we go. And it wasn't even, I don't know, maybe I would say he drove over there himself for about a month, which is probably about 30 miles from where his practice at. He drove to the hospital to see me. And just started treating me, and he's since passed, which is kind of a bummer because he really influenced a few people that went on into chiropractic.
So now that you're here, what would you say makes you unique or makes you stand apart in the chiropractic world, besides having an amazing studio and running your own podcast?
Well, I think it was, I kind of started out bridging that gap between chiropractic and medicine. they had, when I was there, you can tell by the gray hair and the bald spot there, if I've been down far enough, chiropractic wasn't where it is today when I started. Sometimes I focus back and I think back about, these guys adjusting on the hay bale, going to jail, right? For practicing medicine without a license. Certainly, those guys would laugh at this type of a statement right now. They'd be like, you got to be kidding me, right? Like you've got it as good as it gets. And we do, but it still was a struggle. Like it was, you get into practice and you're out there hustling every day. I mean, in Chiro school, they, here's your diploma. And, oh, by the way, here's the boot in your ass. See you later. You owe $100,000, right? Which now I think it's probably like $200,000 or something. That's something crazy. And, you're hustling. And the reality is you don't know shit. I'm like, do I even know how to adjust? What the hell's going on here, man? I mean, this is freaking me out. And there's nothing. You got no one to fall back on. That's why I love what you guys do with Chiro Hustle. It is so freaking important just to hear stories about how you do this stuff, man. It wasn't available. And so I'm one of those guys that was scared to death to go broke. And so I'm like, all right, you know what? Here's what I'm going to do. I know who's getting all the patients, these medical guys, right? And so I was going to their office. I was setting in on spinal rounds all the time. I set in on one spinal rounds where they never asked me a question for 2 years. And then not a single question. And then finally, Dr. Jim Gebhardt, matter of fact, he practices out there on the Western Slope. He sent me a patient and he's just like, all right, do something with this. We did, got him better. And then he sent me another one. And then he sent me another one. And then all of a sudden, the rest of the guys, they started liking me and they started sending patients. And then I kind of became the doctor's doctor. So I was treating those guys and treating their families and then primary cares. And so it was kind of this thing. I think sometimes we get a little crazy, right? And we think we got to explain everything to these guys. I was just telling them, my stuff works as good as yours. And that was it. That was kind of my marketing program, right? I'm like, just get in here and see if you feel better. If you do, send more people. And it was really that simple. And I'll tell you another funny story. Do I have a lot of time? Because I know we were going to talk about me going to Cleveland and then we were going to be done.
Well, you've almost made it to the 10-minute mark.
Hey, and you haven't walked out. We're killing it. So here's what ended up happening, man. I'm sitting in a mall on weekends, right? With a SAM unit. People walking by, and I knew what chiropractic had done for me. And so I had that passion. And then it also made sense. Like if you could take care of something structurally versus just medicine all the time, and chiropractic always preached kind of, diet, exercise, neurology, keeping the joints healthy. It just made sense to me, like way common sense. So much so where I was thinking, man, maybe you guys got it like really wrong over here, right? And, I had a couple guys from the same orthopedic group that I'm talking about. They were coming in there and he happened to be walking by and he says, well, you guys will do anything to get a person in there, won't you? 3 years later, they have a kiosk in the exact same mall doing the exact same thing. And, it's humbling because I would have people come by and say, I'd never go to a chiropractor. And I would have just the opposite. They come by, chiropractic saved my life. And then you start to, again, here we are, however many years later, I'm telling stories. That's what it's all about, is telling stories. And once you kind of get that development down and you see, that first patient, second patient, third patient, you're like freaking the hell out or whatever. Do I really know what I'm doing? But then all of a sudden people start getting better. And then they start telling you that story. And then you start relaying that story, much like what you guys do. And all of a sudden it starts to become easier. And now you're excited because people are getting better. And there's an old saying, I'm stealing this from somebody, I can't even remember who said it, but they, when you first get into practice, they're like, are you getting better? And they're like, yeah. And they're like, you are? And then after you've been in practice for just a little bit, like, you're getting better. Yeah, of course you are. And so there's this kind of transition, right? And again, I don't want to beat your guy's ego too much, but this is invaluable information, I think, because there's the whole new generation, new people coming out. It's the same struggles, the same issues, but just sometimes when you hear it, and you're like, okay, I am going to make it, and I'm going to help a lot of people, and then you transition into this beautiful practice, and chiropractic has just done so much for me.
Well, you said something a little bit ago, and it was in a joke, but it was so true that it does take overnight success takes about 20 years.
It
And
does.
I met you and we started to build a relationship. And this is before you had a podcast going.
Hmm.
And, and just to see what you're doing today and how you're helping bridge that gap, because you were really excited about books and you're really excited about like marketing pushes and you're really excited about telling these stories you've been collecting for years. And I know that was something that really inspired you to start the Truth Talk show. And sometimes we have to understand that the story is bigger than just a profession. The story is just as powerful from like you. I know you said you've done some work with some Navy SEALs.
Hmm.
Their stories, they transcend to the common person. But that interview is being conducted by a guy with DC after his name.
Yeah, we just did a story this morning that is just mind blowing. Another special ops guy. I actually like that type of stuff because it's kind of like when these guys are going, it's all or nothing. You don't have any other option but to succeed. Now they still fail, but failure doesn't stop there. They fail till they succeed, right? And that it transcends everything. Chiropractic again, we didn't have that luxury when I started of people were just like, you mentioned the word chiropractic now in a party and everybody lays down, right? It's almost like a magic trick, right? You're like, what do you do? I'm a chiropractor. Everybody hits the floor, right? They're like, all right, I'm next, right? That wasn't 27 years ago. I'm a chiropractor and be like, you think you break my neck? No, I haven't done it yet. So no, I think we're good. But now, I mean, it's that transition, right? And shit, what COVID do? COVID proved chiropractic's been right all along, right? It's all about your immune system. It's not about a pill. It's not about even a vaccine. It's about getting your body right. And so it's age. It's these guys knew what they were doing, man. The old schoolers and even the guys now, the rock stars that are out there, they're just crushing it and really passing down that torch to the next generation. I mean, this is the greatest profession ever.
So I know earlier you mentioned a quote, you don't remember where it came from, but what are some of your favorite other mantras or quotes or inspirational words of wisdom?
My favorite deep, this is a deep one, but probably my favorite is if you have to eat a shit sandwich, don't nibble on it. You laugh, but I'm telling you, that's the one I think about all the time. And the reason I say that, I'm not kidding you. You guys should never have brought me on the show. I warned you that this was going to be a disaster. But what happens with that is it's the same thing. If you're going to do something, go freaking do it. If you're going to get out, if you're going to go to chiropractic school, then you better get out and relay that message. The moment you get out of that school, you better walk into every single party, every single business after hours, every single thing that you do, and you tell everybody you're a chiropractor. If they don't know what you do, they'll never come see you. And we see it sometimes. People lose that confidence and they don't have it. And that's actually normal. That is very normal. You got to get out of that comfort zone. And even when I transitioned over into this, all these life lessons of literally get out of your comfort zone. That's where all the success is found. All of it's found there. And that's you can just take all of these different sayings. And I also like shock value, right? People will always remember the shit sandwich. They may not remember some deep quote by somebody, whatever, or maybe they do. Maybe it's just me. I don't know, but it makes sense to me. If you're going to do it, do it. Like you said, we started talking before Truth Talks. I don't know how many episodes we're in now. We're getting close to 50, 46. So yeah, we're getting close to 50 episodes and we just keep cranking them, man. And we just keep cranking and cranking and cranking. And once we got started, it's just full on, right? And it's the same thing in practice. So many, I had a young doc call me up and she's going into Fort Collins and I know her from a friend from our hometown. And she said, what would be the biggest advice you would have? And I go, listen, the fastest way to make $1 million is knock on 1 million people's doors and ask for $1. Everybody will give you $1. It's no different when you're a chiropractor. Go knock on 100 doors and you'll get 100 patients, or 1,000 doors to get 100 patients, whatever it is. But if you don't go knock, they're not coming in. That's how it works.
That's some wisdom right there. And that's really, it's so valuable. And, you know, you said something I want to circle back to. It's once a chiropractic student goes through the process of becoming educated, they get that diploma, and now they join the real world. And now they have to be like, oh boy, now it's business time. And now I have to pay this student fee back. And, and, you know, now we have to go out there and do some door knocking. And what happens is they come through this trajectory where I think so. And I'm not going to speak for chiropractic students, but they come through this trajectory where it's head down, pass the classes, get your numbers in, and get the diploma. And then it's a self-esteem matter. They're like, oh boy, now I have to go out there and do the big thing, is build a business around my skill sets that I went to get my education for. And that's a big thing. And that's what you're saying is, if you're going to do it, just go do it and be relentless about it. And people love to see somebody when they're on fire. And if you come into it timid and you're like, yeah, I kind of do this thing that's called chiropractic, and maybe if you ever are curious about it, here's my card. You can call me when you're wanting to come in. And yeah. And you know, if you come through it like that, or you're like, hey, by the way, I'm the chiropractor down there on 2nd and Main, and I am taking new patients right now. And I just got out of school and I can't wait to take care of you and your family.
You know, there's a reason why the giants are giants, right? So you got two options in chiropractic. You can either look good or be good. And a lot of times what happens is these guys get these really big offices, and they, you know, again, I'll give you an example. I'm sitting in surgery with Dr. Bess. He won't care if I say his name on here, but I'm in with Shea Bess, and he's one of the best spine guys around, right? And I don't know, I don't even know how many I've set in on him with. I don't even know how many total surgeries I've set in on. It's been an astronomical amount of them. Why? I wanted to learn. I'm always curious about learning. So I'm sitting there, this patient's wide open, right? And he's cranking in screws, and I'm looking over like that. I'm like, what's that? And in his OR, nobody really talks. They're all kind of scared of him, I think. I don't, it's kind of an interesting ordeal, right? I'm like, what's that? What's that? Hey, what are you doing there? And he would educate me. And it wasn't more than probably a couple surgeries I was with him. I walk into the OR and he's got a headset on. And I go, what are you doing? And he goes, I want you to get a better look. He goes, because when you treat this patient later, I want you to know what I did. You see, the difference is our relationship that him and I did. I started referring him patients that I knew weren't in my wheelhouse, right? We had foot drop. We had something that needed to be done. But I didn't stop there. I made sure he knew what was in my wheelhouse and what was not in his wheelhouse, which is generalized back pain. Even ridics, even if it is foot drop, I tell him, hey, you know what? Let's give it a shot. Let's see what happens, right? These guys don't give a damn what you know, or, you know, that old saying, here's another one of my favorite sayings, you know, patients don't care what you know. They want to know that you care. It can't get any more true in chiropractic or medicine. That's really the key ingredient, right? But education, I would always educate myself. And then every time that patient would come in, I wanted to know what they knew. So I studied my ass off. I studied anatomy, neuro, everything I could possibly get hands on, not just then, but throughout, right? But I would go in with these guys that are super genius. And we ran a podcast with Dan Posley, another one of the great spine surgeons out here, right? This guy refers me a ton of patients. And in half the time he'll send them, he says, I know this x-ray looks pretty shitty, but he goes, chiropractic's pretty good. You see, we've always been scared of this stuff. The problem is we never educated. Once you educate, they really start to get it. And not only they get it, they become patients themselves. And once you get that, now the world's your oyster, right? And then when you get you know, back in the day, they said that, you know, how many adjustments does it take? You know, the whole light bulb thing. And they would say, oh, it takes a lifetime or whatever. Now you hear those guys, you'd be like, listen, this isn't an overnight. They pretty much give our report of findings. This isn't going to be overnight. It's going to take them some visits to get this done. But here's the deal. I really think they're going to save you from surgery. This is what we do, man. And unfortunately, there's only a handful of real giants in our profession that really took that to the next level. And something that always has bothered me a little bit, as you guys well know, Tim is a great friend of mine, Tim Young, and he owns Focus Foundations. And I always thought to myself, what if every chiropractor was in Focus Foundation? What if every single one of them was there? Man, I think the failure rate in chiropractic would be next to zero. It would be zero. And this guy just tells you to go out, share the message, and do what you do. And it is that simple.
Well, I'm reading this book on Navy SEALs, and the chapter I just got through is about a guy that was on like the lead, and another guy was in the lead, and one guy was just kept on losing all of his runs when they were doing Hell Week, and the other guy was winning all the runs, and then they switched the teams around, and they gave the guy that was running first the team that was finishing last, and he started finishing first. So it's not about the unit, it's about the leadership. And
True story.
I really believe that that's something so powerful when it comes to this whole chiropractic thing, is people wouldn't fail if they just had the right leadership. And a lot of times it's about being around the right people. And they always say you can't put your hand in a jug of honey without getting some on you.
I mean, this is all true. I don't really know where you want me to go with this kind of stuff. And I'm a talker, right? So I just talk. But, here's another thing that I see sometimes when I would go into offices. I'd see the front desk manager, right? Or front desk office person. Don't know anything about chiropractic, right? Never referred in a patient. They're just there filling in their time and so on and so forth. All the greats, again, what is it? The moment you walk in that door, everything's about chiropractic. Everything is about the miracles of chiropractic, about what it is that we do, how get your referrals in. There's docs that are scared to ask for referrals, and it's a real easy line, hey, if you're feeling better, share it, share your story. Simple as that, but people don't do it. So I was pretty blessed. I got involved with a group that back in the day that it was a bunch of really successful docs. And if you weren't seeing 100 a day, you were like, man, what's wrong with you? What's going on here? This is terrible. What are you doing? And so I was raised like that, from infancy and in the chiropractic profession. So I didn't know any better. And literally you'd see 20 a day and you just think you were the biggest loser in the world, right? I'm like, my God, I suck at this thing. What do I got to do? So then I'm in malls. There's a grocery store I heard called Biggs. And I talk a lot, we do the whole camera, but I'm actually not that guy that necessarily enjoys a whole lot of people looking at him all the time, right? I'm in the middle of a freaking grocery store at the checkout line scanning people. And it was embarrassing until you go to the bank, right? And then you're like, you know what? This doesn't suck so bad. So it's just your mindset, man. I mean, everybody's got fears. They've got embarrassing things, whatever it is. But as Sam Walton always used to say, laugh all the way to the bank, right? And so you got to go out there, spread the message. Even if you're uncomfortable in that situation, that's where the greats are made.
So how do you think the world would change if every person on the planet started seeing chiropractors and getting adjusted?
Well, I think COVID started to talk a little bit about that, right? So, I mean, again, I think sometimes people get a little too technical. And sometimes I think that's our desire to be accepted. It's the desire to be equal. It's the desire to be all this stuff. Listen, everybody knows if the joint isn't moving, it's going to decay. It's going to get bad, right? And arthritis is coming down the pipeline. All you got to do is take one x-ray. Your first 5 x-rays, you're going to see the story of life. It's all revealed, right? If everybody was getting treated, number one, chiropractic is not just about spinal adjustments, right? It's about a whole body lifestyle, eating right, diet, your exercise routine, about getting right with your mind. There's a whole lot of meditation. So it's a whole lot of the acupuncture, all the stuff that is natural, basically creating a host or a vehicle to resist disease, right? That was the whole idea behind chiropractic, resist disease. And the doctor of the future will give no medicine, right? Y'all know that one. We've seen the poster everywhere, right? Here we are this many years later, and all of a sudden people are kind of like, you know what? I'm kind of tired of being sick. I'm tired of taking a pill for everything. And it's unfortunate because I'm old, because this is the best time ever to be in practice. It's going to get better and better and better. And I remember, I'll give him a shout out to Steve Hayes, was owned Pinnacle, and I kind of grew up in that system, right, of the kind of the big heavy hitters. And what happened with that is he would always say this year is the best year ever. The next year it was, this is the best year ever. It was the best year ever, right? And I'm sure there was some psychology behind that, but it was always true. The more people that you come in contact with now, everybody knows about chiropractic. And I think at that point in time, there was some statistic like 18% of the population used us, right? Like 30 years ago. Now, I don't even know what it is now, but it's got to be pretty astronomical.
Yeah. The whole thing about the methodology behind chiropractic is what you said earlier, is if we don't retain this and own it as chiropractic, as a profession, and like Chiro Hustle does, we keep free speech alive in the chiropractic profession, but we also preserve the languaging of chiropractic when it comes to subluxation, innate intelligence, universal intelligence. And these are like the roots that are deep into the profession. And if we don't own that, like you said, other people are going to take the day one, day two processes, and they're going to put that into other stuff. They're going to take the word wellness, and they're going to put that into the pharmacy. And if we don't own our words and own our systems, then other people are just going to say, oh, by the way, we can take that and put it over there. By the way, we can take that part and put it over here. And they start to basically pick apart what chiropractic, the history of chiropractic, and make it their own. So we have to, like you said, we have to show up, whether it's feeling awkward at a strip mall and sitting there selling chiropractic in a 10x10 booth, or we show up to a grocery store and we show up and help people until you go to the bank. It sucks.
Right.
And you have to go out there and you have to wear the awkward moment in order to save people's lives. Because I've always been told, if we don't tell them the truth about chiropractic, somebody will mislead them with drugs or surgery. And
well, here's the funny thing. When you're doing those screenings, people will come in and inevitably they're like, oh my God, I'm so glad that you were there, because I probably would have never done this. And so you're creating that next generation of chiropractic patients who get it, right? It's unfortunate that we don't have the money to do millions at a time, but it's our duty to do one at a time. And I'll tell you guys another funny story, unless you got more questions you want to. I don't want to. I always hate it when somebody changes my line, but unfortunately, this is how I roll. So here's a good one. I'm sitting in a spinal rounds meeting, and these guys are throwing up their films and talking about how they're going to approach this surgery, right? And this new doc walks in, and they said, "Hey, I want you guys to meet so and so, right? He's a physiatrist." And I'm like, all right, what's a physiatrist do, right?
I don't even know.
They do chiropractic, except they're an MD, right? So they do physical medicine, and so I'm like, physical medicine. I go, well, ain't that some bullshit? And they all start dying laughing, right? And they get it. They get it. Is DOs, more DOs now than ever are getting back into mobilization. I think they call it osteopathic manipulation. More and more are getting into it. There's 2 in my area right now that do nothing but osteopathic manipulation. So the greats, the bigs, just do chiropractic. Don't worry about all the other crap. Just do it. And it is good enough. It has withstood for 100 whatever years. It's good. You don't have to do a whole bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
So where do you see chiropractic heading in the next 20 years or so?
Well, again, I would say this is probably the best time ever, right? So everyone knows it. Even pharma knows it. You can't sustain healthcare with disease care. You just can't say do whatever the hell you want. Here's a pill for it. It's just not going to work that way. Diet. We did Hitch Fit on one of the podcasts, and I don't even know how many people end up signing up for this, but all of their numbers went down to nothing. I mean, their blood work started looking beautiful, cholesterol looking beautiful, everything's looking beautiful. Again, most of them have different PCs, but only one primary care doc called me, and he called me up and he says, "What are you doing over there?" I said, "What do you mean?" And he says, "A couple of your patients tell me they're doing this hitch fit thing. Are you doing some workout thing?" I said, no, that's in my podcast with Truth Talks. That's not what I do over here. But I said, what I did is I incorporated in my chiropractic practice. I'm like, okay, here's what I do for you from a musculoskeletal component. But man, you got to get in shape. This is what you got to do. This is a podcast I did, get on it. And just seeing their numbers plummet. So when you ask the question, where do you see this in 20 years? Are you kidding me? What if every single patient got on that program or one similar? They got treated periodically in order to keep their nervous system healthy, spine healthy. Man, we're putting out some of the biggest players in the world out of business if you could find a way of getting everyone to do it.
Yeah, I think there's a big dogmatic shift when
Huge.
you're saying, like, if you're like in a room full of people and you're like, "Hey, I'm a chiropractor," people just they look for a bale of hay.
Dude,
like, I'll lay on that thing.
Yeah, you might as well just say, "Hey, I'm not going to go to the party. I don't get to drink," because you're going to be treating people all day. Yeah, I mean, that was even true even 27 years ago or whatever. You still, what do you do? I'm a chiropractor. Like, oh man, I could use an adjustment. But now it's everybody. They line up, and it's a beautiful thing to see. I mean, it's just beautiful, right? But yeah, no, this is the greatest time ever.
Well, I knew that's why Chiro Hustle exists. Okay. Because I knew when I started working in a chiropractic office 12 years ago that we would get to the point where chiropractic would be like the thing. And everybody would be like, I got to go do that because I want to be a certain mobility at an older age. I want longevity. I want that. And I think that it's bigger than the pain and strain and the day to day. What chiropractic really is the longevity practice. And people that do it well, they don't get junked up with drugs and they don't get cut open unless they have something traumatic, and they live a better quality of life. And I really believe that that's why when I came into this world, we started changing the curve of people's spines with chiropractic biophysics, but I also saw that their lives were improving. And it's not just, I want to say that just because I think people should be, bandwagon for chiropractic. No, I saw people's lives improving. I saw them becoming just better humans. And if people just knew that chiropractic was about that, and it wasn't about an AMA smear campaign telling people that chiropractors were quacks, if they didn't think that, then chiropractic would have shot to the top back there 40 years ago when they went to the Chester Wolk case. But because of that, now we have to do a lot of retreading and rebranding for the profession to say, hey guys, I know you probably have been told by your cousins, brothers, uncles, neighbors,
right,
boyfriend that somebody got a stroke from chiropractic.
Right.
Well, let's do a quick analysis and talk about the insurance that we have to get for malpractice. Right. Now let's look at the people that give you drugs and do surgery, and now let's look at the people that do adjustments. Perfect. Now you can see that the limitations of what we pay to the limitations of what they pay is much lower. So if you really want to talk apples to apples, let's talk about safety. Let's talk about longevity. And one of my favorite guys, Gordon Hay, he's like, let's talk about when you're 80, walking your dog and not your cane.
Yeah.
That's what's up.
Yeah. Here's another nugget that I'll share just from a little bit of the experience that I've had is, when you first get out in practice too, you're worried about keeping the lights on, right? It's about keeping the lights on. And so you're just like, well, if they just come in and I get 5 visits, you know what, that'll help keep the lights on. Here's the deal. From day one, the first day in practice, tell them the truth. And you get them on a treatment protocol that it's going to take to get them well. And they'll be lifelong patients. They'll refer everybody they know, right? Because some people will come in and be like, yeah, I just want to get popped here. And you start doing that. And next thing you know, you become a pain doc. And next thing you know, you're broke. It's just not how that works. But yeah, so that's one of my favorite things too, that again, we learned, right? We set them up on a treatment plan and then we worked the plan and then you modified the plan according to their symptoms and how they did. And then as they got better, you work that referral system. Hey, you know what, Sue, you're getting better. Please help us out. Spread the word. Tell everybody you know, right? And that's how you build a big practice fast.
It's patient advocacy.
Absolutely.
So who have been some of your biggest heroes and inspirations on this path of yours? And if you could pick anyone from history to have dinner with, who would that be?
Oh God. Let's see. Inspiration people of mine, oh geez. That's a lot. Again, I grew up, I was born into the high volume practice mode through Pinnacle. So, I mean, that list goes on and on, because there were guys that, you're first getting started, you're freaked out, you don't know what to do. And you would lean on 10 different people that had been in practice for 10, 15 years, and they would all give you amazing advice. They were called sponsors back in the day. And then, I mean, still yet today, I talk to Tim all the time about practice and what we're doing and where we're moving and how we're going. And it gets a little bit different as you get older, because then you kind of have it dialed in, so to speak. And then you kind of reverse the roles. And so now we take the younger people and we're like, hey, do this. Don't screw this up. If you do it this way, you're going to get further faster, right? And so I'm kind of more in that teaching, mentoring role now, which is good, because you're a lot more comfortable there than when you're first starting up and you're freaked out about everything, right? So, that, and then who would I have dinner with? Good night. I mean, man, I don't even know.
I can be to Denver any other weekend, and we can go to dinner. Okay.
Right. Yeah. Jim chat. Why, man, it was on the top of my list, but it was like you and BJ Palmer. I'm like, which Jim? Yeah. Hell yeah. No, you know what? And I'll tell you this, you and I spoke a lot. We have, and we've shared a whole lot of really cool moments that I've learned a lot from you in just the times that we've talked. And I do encourage Chiro Hustle, because, man, we need that bad. Like, we need a place to go, because we still don't have residency programs where you just get out, start making some money, man. You get the boot. And what you guys are doing is amazing, and it needs to be bigger, and it just needs to be part of the chiropractic lifestyle.
I appreciate you saying that. And, for us as being the humble creators, what it takes to put out a show, and what it takes to actually get somebody to say yes. And what it takes to actually get the lights to come on, and somebody to get you their bio and headshot, and to do artwork for them. The amount of like hustle that it takes to recruit somebody into one episode. It's the things that no one else sees. All they see it is when we're doing this.
Yeah.
And when they're listening to it on their Apple iPod, or their iTunes, or whatever they listen to it on, their Spotify, or whatever they listen to their streaming network on. It could be a YouTube, whatever they're doing. That's the only thing that they think that you do. But there's so much that goes in behind this. And we were just on a sales call with a potential sponsor, and they're like, so tell us, there's all these like divisions within this profession that you guys are doing the show for. I was like, yeah, it's like acronym warfare. Like, if you don't have like the right like association after your club that you're in, they don't like the other people. And I was like, and that's just such a small knit group of people not liking each other. And I go, there's about 60,000 chiropractors in the US. And the thing that we've done with our show is we've basically torn down the walls of division. And we said, all chiropractors are coming on in here, and you're all going to share your story. And you could come from that acronym or that acronym. But number one, we have unified the profession with the voice and with the stories and the truth behind the profession, that it passes beyond any of the confusion within the house. And it gives people a great reflection of what chiropractic really is from an outside perspective. And it doesn't really muck people up with this club that I'm in and you're not.
You know how you know that chiropractic works? People paid cash for it. It's a true story. When people will lay down their hard-earned money, they must get results. Otherwise, they won't do it. And for 100 years, it was straight out of their pocket. And so that in and of itself, you don't need to do a Harvard research program where does chiropractic work. If it didn't, we wouldn't be here, because we didn't have somebody just paying the bill. It was coming from the actual person that was there seeking care. And it's just mind-boggling sometimes to me, that we haven't united more than we have. And again, I know that there's different philosophies and the techniques and different so on and so forth, but we really are one body. And you know what? If they're getting results, they're getting better. You're doing the right thing. You're doing the right thing for whatever talent you have to deliver the mechanism.
Well, I know that we have a lot more unifying to do, because there is a such thing. I gave a talk in Boulder a couple years ago called Unity Through Diversity. And if I came to your practice and I went to 5 other practices, everybody has their own little flavor of how they do their art of chiropractic. So I know that we have to support the diversity of the unification of the profession to allow people to know that each person's a little bit different, and everybody adjusts their patient base a little bit different. And that if we just understood that within the chiropractic profession, as long as they're not infiltrating and changing bylaws of drugs and surgery and prescribing rights, chiropractic is chiropractic is chiropractic. But every practitioner you go see, it doesn't matter if they're all Pinnacle doctors, they're all going to have their own approach to how they take care of their individual practice. So you're getting care from one person with multiple philosophies, from a big education background, and they're going to ride their clinic the way that they want to, because they are the one that's licensed to provide care. So that's the real truth.
That's why I love Focus, what Dr. Tim Young does. That's why I love it. He brings everybody in and he teaches you how to be a great chiropractor. You deliver it how you're going to do it, but he teaches you to be a great chiropractor. And that's, again, it kind of goes back to that same thing. What if every single chiro on the planet was under that program? It would be unbelievable. And we would be a force to be reckoned with. We kind of already are, in spite of ourselves.
People come in with their cash out of their wallet and they say, I'm going to pay you my cash for you to perform what you do. I don't even know what you do. You're going to tell me all these big words, and you're going to explain to me on charts, and you're going to show me an x-ray, and you're going to explain to me a plan, but here's my cash.
Yeah.
You do what you do.
Yeah. It's that simple, man.
So what would be some advice you would give to a student who's about to graduate?
Get into a program right away. Start learning from the guys that are there that are always trying to get better, right? Don't get involved with a program where it's a document or you're reading something or whatever. No, you got to go talk to people. It's the stories that are going to make you successful. And here's the one thing about our profession, I think, that separates us from anyone else. Chiropractors are always willing to share. That's the thing. Chiropractors are just kind of born to care, and they don't want to see anybody failing, barely getting there. That's not what they want. It's a incredible group of people, but you got to get that mindset built right out of the gate. I promise you don't know enough to be great yet, but you can borrow it. You borrow it from the guys that have been doing it for a long time, and you'll fast forward your office 10 years.
So what you're saying is it's not about the education that you have, it's about the questions that you ask.
Education is wonderful. Although a lot of chiropractic education is moving towards, they might as well be MDs anymore. This is kind of the way it is. It's the art of chiropractic that made us where we are. And so I highly suggest that you get into, again, I keep bringing him up because he's really the only guy I kind of go to. He's just my go-to guy. But, Dr. Young does all these adjusting classes for extremities and all these different things. He's been doing it for 27 years, same as I have. And learn from these guys. Not only that, but you're around a group of people that have made that practice successful, right? You don't want to go and talk to the person who is failing or they've been in practice for 10 years and they hate it. Then you're going to hate it. Go to the guys that have been doing it for 20 some years and they love it. That's who you need to be around. And it's
then
that simple.
And then ask them questions.
Oh, ask them like crazy because they love it. We all love it when they're like, "Hey, I understand you're pretty successful. Yeah, did all right." It feel good, and everybody loves to share, man. And it's what we do here too. Everybody wants to share their story to help someone else out, and that's exactly what some of the old timers do. Just fast forward your practice, man.
Well, as we begin to approach the end of this interview, one of our final questions is, what do you like to do for fun? What are some of your hobbies? What do you read and listen to?
Well, of course, I listen to this show called Truth Talks. It's the best I've ever heard. I can't get enough of it. I listen to the episodes over and over and over again. Reading stuff. I love having conversations. Again, Jim and I've talked many times, and I love conversations. It always opens my mind. It makes me think more. I'm not a big TV kind of guy. I do like sports, Final Four. I'm kind of geared and jazzed for that. But I love conversation, man. I love expanding the mind. I love how people think. And sometimes even the crazier, the better for me. I'm just like, woo, you are crazy. How'd you get that crazy? And so I'm really inquisitive of stuff like that. But I am a student of the human mind. That's my passion. I love studying human behavior. That's how I end up doing all the stuff that I've done, because I've always questioned why you don't want more when it's available and it's there. And so then I just dove into all these different categories and then hear people and get their stories, and it's just experiential knowledge. And that's what I love. So I don't watch a whole lot. Although I do love 1,000-Pound Sisters. I'm going to give them a plug. It is it's my only dirty habit that me and my wife and my kids, we watch that show. And oh man, when the episodes are over, I'm like, oh, I got to wait till next year. But it's kind of a terrible show. But on the same token, sometimes I do like to let my mind relax because it doesn't do it very often.
And what are some websites people can go to if they want to learn more about you or listen to your show?
Of course, truthtalks.com is where we're at, and we're launching all kinds of stuff. We've got so much exciting stuff happening over here. It's insane. But if you at least go there, you're going to catch everything as they come out. Producer Chad, he does all the back end stuff. He's posting everything that we're doing. And again, what we're bringing with this show all literally stem from chiropractic. When I was treating patients, there was a certain time, and it was actually very early on for me. It was one particular patient really changed my life. And do I have time to tell it? You guys got a second?
Yeah.
All right. So this particular patient, her dad was he was a pilot. He was the guy was a really interesting cat, and he did all this kind of important work during his handyman business, which did pretty well. But then when it would come wintertime, he didn't have as much work. So he would do breakfast burritos, and he was a hustler, but he was good at it. Right. And he kind of kept that family together, and he brought his whole entire family in for me to treat since they were kids. And comes into my office one day and he says, "Hey doc, I know I need to hang up a couple of these boards and stuff." He says, "I want to do it." And then he comes in my office and he sits down and he says to me, he says, "I want to tell you how much I appreciate you taking care of my family and keep my family healthy." And it was kind of, just one of those conversations where you're like, yeah, of course, not much more than that, but of course. That night he dies of a massive heart attack. And I watch his daughter just literally nosedive into drugs and alcohol and just this horrific life, right? And I kept wondering why she didn't want more. And then as I'm starting to kind of focus on that, and it's really bothering me a lot, like, what can we do? I am taking care of this guy's family as their doc, and I'm watching his kids just, take these nosedives. And I started listening more. As a doc. And next thing I know, I'm like, holy shit, man, wait a minute. These people are coming in with 50% musculoskeletal pain, but they're coming in with 50% emotional pain. Like, they're talking, they're going through a divorce and they're suffering from headaches because of the stress that they're going through, or loss of a family member, and they're depressed. And man, everything just hurts and they can't get better. Right. So I started literally documenting these stories. And then what I found is very early on, I would share that story with another patient. So, say somebody lost a family member, and I'll never forget this saying. It's the one I kind of termed, I just said it one day, and it's been going on now in my practice for 20 some years. But this lady came in, she'd lost her mom. Her mom was the closest thing in the world to her. And I said, it hurts that bad because it was that good. I said, not everybody gets to hurt that bad because their relationships aren't that good. And it just stuck. And so then I started repeating that to other patients that were having that same problem. And they were like, oh my God, literally, if you ask Tia, my office manager right now, I swear to you, half the people I see during the day come in just to talk. Because we adjust them in a couple minutes, right? But it was something that I found really started helping heal a lot of people in a much bigger scale. And sometimes it's just sharing that somebody else is going through something similar. That's where all of this stuff was born. That's when I started the Simply the Truth. It's when I started all this stuff, and it was my passion. And sometimes I think you just kind of grow, and you're all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, this is what I was designed to do. And chiropractic, I'm telling you, was the greatest thing that's ever happened to me.
Well, we thank you so much for sharing your chiropractic story today and what makes you unique in this chiropractic world and all of the depth of knowledge that you possess. And you just spurred something up in me that had been dormant for a long time. And I used to tell everybody, have a chiropractic day. And when they would leave the office, I would tell them to have a chiropractic day. And my last day of working at the first office I worked in, this little 7-year-old girl made this little duct tape wallet for me. And it had a sticky note inside of it with a smiley face. And it said, have a chiropractic day. And she gave that to us because we fixed her grandpa's neck named Pedro. We fixed Pedro's neck. And she would come in and see him get traction. And she was so happy that we fixed her grandpa's neck that she knew I was leaving. And she gave me this duct tape wallet with a little picture inside of it on a Post-it note that said, have a chiropractic day. So, Dr. Mitch, I want you to have a chiropractic day.
Same to you. I can't wait. And one last thing I want to leave you with, because this is one thing that I want all new docs to hear too, is when a patient walks into your office, you may be the most influential person that they've seen that day, seen that week, or maybe seen in their entire lifetime. Don't take it lightly. Do the best you can do every single time you do it.
With that being said, Dr. Mitch, when I come back to the Front Range, I'm going to connect with you, and let's get a hiking sometime.
Let's do it. Yeah, you did 6.8 miles. Is that what you said?
Yep.
Yeah, that's insane. But that's good for you. That's the chiropractic lifestyle.
We'll do 2.
That's right. 2's good. 2's good. I'm old. It's high altitude.
All right, Dr. Mitch.
Hey, you guys, let me do one more thing here again, real fast. Anybody that's out there, any chiros listening, listen, here's our chance. This is it, right? You got these guys right here that have said, I'm going to bring a program to influence our profession. If we don't promote Chiro Hustle, we are not growing the profession as we should. So thank you guys for doing what you do, because I'm sure one of my kids, there's 5 people in my family that are chiropractors. I started this whole mess and now they're all chiros. I have a feeling that there's going to be more coming down the pipeline. Thank you guys for what you do.
Well, we do it with love and service, just like the chiropractic profession is give, love, serve. And if you give everybody anything that they have ever asked for, you never have to ask for anything. So this is our chance to give and give and give. And now we're not really asking for anything. We're just really pushing ourselves to a higher level. And with that be, that opportunity, it gives us better relationships. And
amazing.
That's what it's all about. Is when you talked about learning from the greats before you, we're still learning from the greats. And it's really an honorable profession to support, because it is so misunderstood and misled, and people don't know who to trust or where to go for their health. And they just don't know it's the chiropractor. And if the chiropractor was at the front of the table, the head of the table in every discussion, there'd be a lot different ways that people are raising their families.
A lot of truth to that. You guys just keep up the good work.
You too.
All right, Dr. Mitch.
All right, I'm on to my next show. We got one starting in 30.
All right.
Take care, you guys.
All right, talk soon.